Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Wednesday weekly book study group. And this week let me just see if I can turn her mic off. There we go. So Kimberly just stepped away from her camera to close her door. And I just want to welcome everyone. And welcome you guys that are calling in, and I mean guys and gals that are calling in. We're happy to have you with us. Welcome, live streamers. I turned your mic off. I turned your mic off while you stepped away, so you'll need to turn it back on. So this week we have the awesome Kimberly Cartwright back with us again. Kimberly's in the house. Hey, yes.
Okay.
Arthur's in the house. Hello, Arthur.
Yay.
Yay. Love you, my brother.
I love you, Arthur.
Yeah. And thank you guys, all of you guys, for showing up for this another amazing chapter. And you know, these are not marked as chapters, but there are six sort of like themes or titles for the essays that accompany this title setup. And this one is called The Nature of Peace, Happiness, and Love. And at first glance, you know, you open it up, and of course we went through that 18 weeks of the nature of consciousness, and all the different aspects of the way to see things, the way to understand consciousness, the way scientists, the reason that they can't quite understand consciousness because everything that they determine as fact is based on the physical experience being the reality from where everything is seen from. And here we're in the nature of, or the art of peace and happiness. In my mind, this whole book is just another way of seeing things differently, in a different way, so that you can open up more into understanding what's always occurring. Mm-hmm. So that you can connect with that always that's occurring. And I bought a thin book the other day online. I didn't have any idea what it was going to be. You know, it didn't look like a great author or anything, but it's called the Games, Awareness Games. It's called Awareness Games. And it's a bunch of games that this guy he's a movie producer, director, and he just started opening up to consciousness and awareness, and he thought, wow, he got very much into it, through developing these games, these awareness games. And so I picked up the book and I'm starting to read it. And one of the questions, what he does in this book, he says that the questions that he invites you to play with, they trick the mind to step out of the way. Just like when you ask the question, what is it that is aware? Well, here's a trick question that it's not really a trick question, but it's a question that does just that. It sets the mind aside by the question itself. So the question is, without memory, what is it? What do you know?
It's so great.
Right? Without memory, what? And so when you go to discover that, you're there. You're in awareness, and it's a question that sort of tricks the mind into stepping aside. Isn't that cool?
Totally cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So I picked up this little book, and that was just one of the many things that I got out of it. But when I went into this chapter this week, the nature of peace, happiness, and love. Oh my God. I can't believe I'm still in fact I took Lisa to pick her car. No, Lisa took me to pick my truck up this morning. I had a little repair done to it where I had accidentally run into a tree this winter. I I I, I didn't I put my brakes on too soon on the ice when I was making a left turn out of here, and I slid right into this tree. So I had my bumper being fixed this morning. And as I was driving down there, I said, I love this chapter that we're going to do in our book club today because there's something came out of it. It's like and she goes, well, what's it about? And I said, it's the meaning of love. It's like he's that one of the things that Rupert is discussing is how what does love mean? And what does that mean to you? And I just what I got out of this, what he says on what does love mean, how do you know what love means? And when I started looking at the way Rupert describes it, let me see if I can find.
Because I highlighted the same thing. It's in the love is the natural condition of all experience in that one.
Yeah.
And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 8 paragraphs in, or 9, and it actually says love is simply the felt understanding, and the paragraph before that.
Yes. Yeah. So he says in this third paragraph, he says, this experience of the, okay, no, he says, as we explore our experience more deeply.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, I think I'm going down too far into it. Love is the natural condition of all experience. So what Rupert is saying here, he says, as we explore our experience more deeply, and he's talking about there is only ourself, our only knowingness. He says, thinking may conceive of one as far, let's see. No, I can't break into the middle of what he's talking about without going to the top. So he says, what happens to our experience of the moon? No, we can't even. It's almost like you need to read the whole page before to catch up to it. But I'm going to pick up where I highlighted paragraph 4 or 5. It says, he's talking about as we explore our experience more deeply, we find that the line between ourself that knows all experience and the objects of the mind, body, and world that are known gradually or abruptly in some cases fades. It either explodes in a moment of clear seeing or dissolves in time. This experience of the absence of distinction, separation, or otherness between ourself and whatever is experienced is known as love. And then he goes on to say, love is normally conceived as the quality of intimacy that characterizes a small handful of relationships connecting one person to another, whereas it is, in fact, the natural condition of all relationship, of all experience. Love is not selective, only thinking is. Love is simply the felt understanding that our experience is not made up of two essential entities, a separate inside self and a separate outside object, other, or world. Love is the collapse or dissolution of this apparent duality or rather, it is the felt understanding that the duality never existed in the first place. And so this is so cool, Kimberly, because the thing that makes me love you is, or me love my wife, or me love my cat, or anything or anybody, is not because I have this, we've made this physical connection, or we did something that was really cool. It's because the separation has dissolved in our relationship so that we're experiencing our true nature.
Mm.
And from that, we're going, oh, I love you. I so totally love you. I love, and the reason that we don't feel that connection when we're fighting with someone, when we're arguing with someone, when we're negotiating with someone, when we're when we're there's a positive, negative, a back and forth, is because the separation is in place. Love is not. So we don't feel like this is a really great connection that's happening right now. We're feeling like this feels screwed up, man. This doesn't feel good. Even when I see posts on Facebook where people are arguing with each other, I don't like the energy that I'm feeling when I'm reading it. Right? I don't like the energy that's going back and forth. Why is that? Because I'm invested in the movie instead of staying back non-judgmental as the screen. So I've invested myself the in the energy of the experience that's happening.
Yeah, that I had highlighted similar part of that essay because I don't think I can ever hear these ideas enough. And just even right from the beginning of this chapter, I don't I told you, Bill, when we were prepping for this call that I only got this book on Kindle. So it's really weird for me to try to find things when I don't have what I'm used to. I'm from the generation of books where we had books. So doing things on a Kindle, it's like, oh my goodness, where am I? But this section that we're looking at today is so it's so profound because Rupert is walking us through the real fundamental premise on which the non-dual understanding is based, and then he's giving us he's helping us to understand the implications of the premise. And so what I mean by that is right from the beginning, Rupert is saying that our way of seeing the world is upside down, and that when we allow ourselves to realize that the only element there is to our entire experience is this one element only, just consciousness, that means that we have to look again at everything that we thought we understood. And so two themes that Rupert is diving into with us here to look again is, one of them is this idea of love. Well, a few themes, 4 themes: love, peace, happiness, and time. He's actually asking us, understanding that this premise of consciousness only, let's look again at what is peace, what is love, what is happiness, and what is time. And specifically, you were just talking about the love. I look at what I understood love to be for my whole life, and it was not love that was based on this premise. It was worldly love, like Rupert was saying. It was about the intimacy of a few special relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing about the love of the world is that most of the time it didn't feel loving. Even, it never, the peace that I was seeking in these love relationships, beginning with, my parents, my siblings, my friends, all throughout my life, there was an element to all of that love relationship that was intermittent. It came and went. If my mother got me the thing I wanted when she went to the grocery store, it was so easy to just love her to pieces. But if she didn't get it, or I didn't get what I wanted, then I could feel that contraction. And we're conditioned to believe that that's what love is. So the reason I kind of started off by saying I can't ever, read this or take this in enough is that the layers of conditioning around these basic ideas is so powerful that it requires, Rupert points out, some people have like an instant, complete dissolution of the conditioning. But that's not my experience. And most people, I guess, have to do it. It's a process. And that's certainly been my experience. And one of the things that we can talk about, I really wanted to share in relationship to what's going on in this chapter, is my experience of using Rupert's yoga meditations to begin to like, I get it. I get what, we get what he's talking about. We get it. But that wasn't touching what I call the baked on, like there's the dirt that you can just kind of rub off, but then there's the baked on stuff that requires, you need to soak it. It needs to just soak for a while. And Rupert's yoga meditations, and it's kind of funny, I listen to them when I'm in the tub. So literally, I'm soaking in it. It's kind of funny. And also, when I get out of the tub, I imagine all the things that I've let go of draining out of that tub. But what's happened, because I'm so interested, is deep stuff has been coming up. And the reason it's coming up is because I've been combining this understanding with the yoga meditations. And so it's causing stuff that I had no idea was in there to rise to the surface. So it's been a very rocky month or so for me. Rocky, not bad, but very intense, because the stuff that's coming up, like, it's not cute, it's not pretty, it's not easy, it's not fun necessarily, but it's necessary. It's been in there and it's ready to go. So this is, super duper important to me. What Rupert is teaching me and helping me to let go of is, this is what I came for. This is what I took birth for, was this powerful release. So the simplicity of the ideas that Rupert talks about, by no means, they're so simple, but what he's actually saying is so profound.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your idea for soaking in the yoga meditations. And also soaking in those and being available for whatever is bubbling up, whatever is is moving, churning, or being noticed. And then I totally love that all of those things are in metaphorically they're going down the drain when the water is emptied out of the tub. That's just beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, it's very helpful for me to understand that this is just, I'm letting go. I'm really letting go. It's not happening all at once, but it feels like the identity that the level of identity at which I'm being invited to let go, it feels like survival, right? I feel like there's that part of the mind that says, if I let go of that, just exactly the question you asked, Bill, at the beginning, without any reference to memory, what do I know? You know, and the mind completely freaks out and goes into stun, right? It goes first into stun. And then when it understands the implications of that, gets a little agitated, or it can get a little agitated.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful question.
Yeah. And practice too. I just love your practice. I'm looking at this first essay that our essential being is peace itself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why. I mean, I can't tell you how meaningful to me that understanding of why love acts like it does.
Mm.
Why does love act like it does? What's occurring? Why is it that when I'm hanging out with you, I'm feeling like, man, I just love hanging out with Kimberly.
Right.
Love hanging out with Lisa, or I just love hanging out with Annika, or my cats. When my cat's sitting in my lap, she's just purring. I don't want. She pushes my book or whatever out of disturbing our experience, and she just purrs. I'm just sitting there. I never had cats before I met Lisa. We got them maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I just love that little thing that's just sitting there loving me.
Mm.
I'm experiencing this love connection with this little animal. And I'm now when I'm reading what Rupert is saying, what it is, it's a distinction of what is occurring when love is recognized.
Right.
And what is occurring is that the separation has been removed from my connection with this experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yes.
love you, and it's
I
not
love you too.
it's non-physical. It's a
Right.
total connectedness of love,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives love an out of time reference. It just gives love such a higher out of time meaning that that I can have with anyone, anything, any experience, and never apologize for it. Totally embrace it.
So one of the things that I loved about this section, and I remember Lisa interviewing Rupert, and one of the things Lisa loved was Rupert saying that meditation is a yes to everything. That's what, Rupert was saying, this ideas, all these ideas is a gigantic yes to life. And Rupert says that our self is like an open, empty space, but a knowing or aware space that, like the space of a room, is inherently free of resistance. And so that's what you're talking about, which is you're talking about love. Love is the release of any resistance. And then he says, in fact, our self doesn't know the meaning of the word resistance. Our reality has no resistance. There's no quality of resistance to our reality.
Right.
It's a wide open yes to all appearances. Like the empty space of the room, our self is inherently free from any of the objects or activities that appear within it, whether they're thoughts or feelings or sensations or perceptions, and yet at the same time allows all of them without preference or discrimination. And that's the description of love. Love from a consciousness only model is the, as you said, the recognition that there's nothing present but consciousness itself having the experience of being conscious. And that experience, whether it's delivered through that cozy feeling of that little cat, just curling up and allowing us to just soften and be so present to what is right this minute, or looking at a beautiful sunset, being in nature and just letting that experience of that beauty just allow all of the extraneous thoughts, sensations, perceptions, and ideas and all that, letting all of that be taken out in favor of just the full experience of the yes, that everything is present right here. There's nothing that I'm objecting to or that's wrong, or the release of all of that little imaginary self stuff. And that is also why, I love hanging out with you, because our minds think similarly. The reason we love to be around certain people is that we know that around certain people, it's more predictable that we will enter that state of yes, right? There's some people around whom I just see their face and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever might have been upsetting me moves away, and what rises in their presence is this recognition. It's a field. It's an energy field. It's all there is. Yeah. So that's, another way of explaining or seeing love. It's a gift. And I look at my purpose and function is to be the awakeness in which awakeness occurs for everybody. Not what I do, not what I say, but to simply embody that element as completely as I can. And I'm sure that's what's going on in that bathtub, is I've entered into a process where that's the end point. And all the stuff that's kind of in the way is coming up.
Well, and in this process, this experience of the gradual, or could be spontaneous, automatic. It doesn't happen as much, but the gradual does happen to most beings. And the experience of, or the noticing of this energy that's taken the place, that we have conditioned ourselves to take the place of our true nature, of our true self, as taken the place of love, as that is recognized from the place of love, from the self that has realized it. Less and less will I be calling that experience into my experience, because less and less is my belief that experience is even there.
Right.
So even though you're never trying to, you're not resisting anything, you're saying yes to everything. and by the yes to everything and the full, and it'll test you. Every single yes is going to test you to make sure that it's pure.
Yeah.
And
Right.
once the pure is the dominant piece, or the resistance is no longer there, that will be the recurring new experience. Even though because you didn't try to make you didn't try to you didn't say no to this, yes to that. And that's one of the problems with denial and affirmations. Denial and affirmations are good in the beginning because they sort of make you alert to it. But after a while,
Right.
it has to only be yes,
Mm-hmm.
because the that's the room that is filled with furniture, and is there's not a
Yeah.
space in that room that is where the furniture is separate from the space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Um, a long time ago, like 30 years ago, when I first started getting interested in all this, I practiced Buddhism for a decade. And I also was interested in forms of meditation like Vipassana meditation. And I had a wonderful teacher. And I remember him saying, he was always pointing to this. I didn't get it. Like, I was still trying to understand what he was talking about, but he was pointing to this. And he would say things like, dying of cancer, you can stop the war. Like in difficult, quote unquote, difficult circumstances, you can stop the war. That this yes is always available. There is never a way in which this yes, this consciousness is not present. And the invitation and the opportunity is to not try to fix or solve the issue. And I know that Rupert talks about it in this section. I don't think I can find it right now, but he basically says, life is life, and you do have to take care of what you have to take care of, but you do so from this place of consciousness in which the doing does itself, and you are as much a witness to the doing as would another person be witnessing to what you're doing. So that the he didn't use the word efforting, but I'll say the word efforting because I can't find it here. But basically, he says that consciousness, this unfolding of experience, is just happening. It's just doing its thing. We're not in control of it. We're not making it happen. It's just happening. Consciousness never tries to get in the way of the unfolding of what's unfolding. It's just all there is to this unfolding is this consciousness. And so there's always a way, no matter what appears to be going on, to stop the war, to stop that, the resistance, and to be the yes in every circumstance. There's an invitation to align myself with the yes.
Yeah. Well, this gives a good opening to sort of bring up a question that Henrik had. And I think it's really a good question that he has, because Henrik says, let's see, where's his question? Henrik says, where did it go? He said, "Thanks very much for yours and Arthur's answers to the questions last week, all very good. But what do you do if the mind keeps harassing you and destroys a normal sleep? Any advice?
Destroys the sleep
Normal.
time.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, so I'll just, rip a page right out of Rupert's own dialogue. And I would begin with who is the one that's upset. And, one of the things that Rupert has taught me is that it's way more helpful for me to want to understand the process or the elements of a circumstance instead of trying to make it go away or fix it. So if I'm approaching a situation that's causing me upset, if I approach it from the point of view of one who wants it to go away or to fix it, I'm not in a position from that point of view that I can access the knowing. So I have basically withdrawn my ability to know myself as consciousness by my point of view as a person who's having a problem. So, that's basically it's the self that's saying it's having a problem that is creating this imaginary distance between itself and the solution or consciousness. So the first thing that Rupert always says is to, basically to relax and to seek to understand our experience, not understand it, dissect it, rather to actually go into the nature of the experience, the sensations of it, the thoughts, the perceptions, to begin to, and it's very similar to those trick questions. By allowing myself to begin to seek only to understand something, I'm moving from a place of separation and selfness, and I'm starting to release that and to dissolve back into that in which this is occurring. Because that's where the peace is. It's by remembering and recognizing myself as that in which this circumstance is unfolding, that by which the circumstance is known, and eventually to remember that I am that with which this circumstance is made. I usually don't get to that place until I'm very deeply connected to I'm the consciousness in which this is occurring. And then I start to receive, oh yes, this is only consciousness. And therefore this circumstance itself is made out of the one thing. There's only the one thing, which is consciousness. So that would be my offering to Henrik, is to enjoy the experience of being curious, like just being curious about the whole thing. And I often, I will locate in my physicality, where is the sensation that goes with the thought. So I have a thought that is causing me to say I'm upset. the thought often has a physical component. And because we do this, this is what an emotion is. It's a thought plus a feeling. That emotion often has a lot of momentum, and it's the momentum which distracts us from our ability to soften and see the reality. So my curiosity begins with, where is this showing up? A lot of my intensity or emotion shows up in my solar plexus and my throat. And we're all configured the way we're configured. That's my configuration. And I've noticed as I do this as a process, the moment I start to go into, okay, now where is this happening? Not like, how could I make this stop? And this is, but just like, oh, wow, okay, it's in my throat, it's in my solar plexus. I can feel my eyebrows are a little tight. And then I start saying, well, what is the thought? What's the thought? And then I start asking myself, well, who is the one that's thinking this thought? Rupert says, on whose behalf is this thought arising? Now, for whatever reason, that language doesn't go into my head, on whose behalf, but I do ask, show me the one that's upset. I want to find the one that's upset. And from there, I start to remember that the thoughts that I'm thinking are not doing the knowing. My thoughts don't do the knowing. They're known. My thoughts are known. This sensation is known. And as I begin to just, recount these ideas, I become less caught in the momentum, and I'm able to just soften gradually, gradually, gradually until I rest back at home. But it's a process. And I know Rupert says at first it takes a while to do the process. You'll be able to speed up. It will take, less time, even though we know there's no such thing as time. It will appear to take less time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a great, I would call a prescription, or a sort of a way to look at that, for, to just what I like to do when anything is disturbing my peace. I don't really, I don't really locate a body situation, unless someone that's like a therapist, or someone that has your tendency, which to say, well, is it showing up? Is your upset showing up anywhere in your body somewhere? Because one time someone did that with me when I was at the Burling I was at the Mercy Center seeing Rupert for a week, and someone invited me to look at where I had a thought where I had an upset, and then this person invited me to remember where if the upset had a voice, where would it be? And I found it in my stomach, actually. And then the voice that actually located the voice that had words to share with me. So it is an interesting practice that you can use. I think it really takes a trained person to help you to navigate in that way. And I also feel that consciousness, the I am of consciousness, will locate that person for me exactly as the prescription requires, exactly so that I will locate that energy source that will allow me to have a some kind of a method to release this. And what I found to be the very most helpful for me is just, man, putting my hand on my heart. For some reason, that anchors me into presence. It is a reminder for that somehow the physical body, the being uses the body sensation of the hand going on the heart and the pausing of it to rest in awareness, just to totally rest in this peace experience, this presence experience, that just everything seems to get resolved right there. Everything, and if it doesn't get resolved there, I find peace there that allows me to go about my day, and then it catches up to me. The self, that little pause of self-realization is a reminder of what I am. So without using words, the self has found a mind-body mechanism that connects all the parts, the finite parts, with the infinite self, connects the dots, and I find all of my issues, any kind of upset, any kind of argument, or any kind of place where my peace might be disturbed, or even decisions that are to be made. Mm-hmm. When I have a family matter that is that could be emotionally charged or could have a reaction to it, I find when I rest in this place of being, which is the same thing you were talking about, it's saying yes to the meditation of the self. It's yes to meditation. And when I find myself relaxing into this experience of being, I know exactly what to say to my son, my daughter, my ex-wife, this situation over here. It's if we allow ourselves to relax into the presence of this self that we are, it answers the questions for us. It gives us a mental download, or and all of a sudden we'll find peace, and then we'll notice that we know what to do. It's a miracle, really. It seems like a miracle, but it's really just coming in touch with love, with our essential self.
That's awesome, Bill. So great. I'm feeling everything you're saying. Totally love it. And I love the questions. Like last week, there were so many great comments from the people. I loved hearing you and Arthur last week. It was so fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Arthur. And I'm so looking forward to hearing all the other presenters, because I'm just happy to be among you all. And it's like a beautiful thing. I just want to thank everyone who's going to share, presenter, you are listening or whatever. Thank you, because I feel, we feel this. This is a felt experience, and it's a beautiful thing. And I was listening to Rupert the other day, and he said that our yearning for God is God's yearning for us. He always says that grace, what is grace? It's 100% God. We don't have anything to do with it. And we're being reeled in, right? We're being reeled in by the master. The master fisher person is reeling us in. And some of us, we all come in all these unique ways, but we are all being reeled in. And my gratitude is that we are doing this together in such a beautiful way. And Bill, thanks for making this book club happen so that we can enjoy each other and support each other and love each other in this enlightened love and friendship.
it is my honor
Mm.
and my privilege to to join with all of us. You know, we're so in love with Rupert's pointing because it's pointing us to and each other's expression of that pointing because it's pointing us to that illumination of the self.
Mm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And Rupert said just what I've just looked down here at this page that's titled "Happiness is Inherent in Our Being," and I underlined this whole paragraph where Rupert says, "Without the arising of thought, just what you were saying, our true self of aware presence knows no resistance to the current situation. It is
Oh,
utterly, intimately one with it. Aware presence says yes to all appearances.
mm.
The fact that anything is appearing means that presence has already said yes to it. That yes is happiness. It knows no resistance or seeking, no desire to change the current situation for a better one. And so, in my mind, just if I was to apply this to Henrik's question, Henrik, um, you're up at 2 a.m., man. Praise God. You are having this experience of of uh, of of whatever is occurring, and just allow it to be like Kimberly was saying. Just allow this, and also allow the discomfort to be noticed. Just allow all of those things to be noticed, but it, as much as you can, allow yourself to relax into the the yes of it. Allow yourself to relax
Mm.
into the yes of presence, and see if that, as an experiment for yourself, see if that changes, and actually without an expect don't have an expectation that by doing this that's going to change, because you've already faulted in expecting something to change by doing that, but just to allow yourself to relax into the yes of the experience. And as Jesus once said in the New Testament, this too shall pass. Be
Mhm.
passers by. And that means just like a passing cloud, consciousness just is undisturbed by this passing cloud completely.
Mm. So awesome. Bill, are there any other questions or comments from people?
There's some comments from Annika. Annika, I love you. I've had your emails. Your emails are too long for me to sit down and write you back because I'm short on time. I'm going to Florida to see my son and my grandson and my daughter-in-law, maybe my daughter, maybe even my ex-wife tomorrow, and I'm trying to connect a lot of dots. I don't have time to sit down and write back on emails, but I love you so much, and I will write back to you. But thank you for joining with us all the time and being so present in our
Mhm.
community of discussion here. And Annika says, we intuit when we are not in line with what we are. We intuit.
Mm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So true. We intuit. And we also, it's just like you said a few minutes ago, as we just we allow the washing of this language of understanding, this new conditioning. We allow this to marinate and wash over us. We more and more are coming from the place of being, so that we we do intuit much more often. It becomes more of a natural state because that's our true state. than the reactionary one that's basing decisions and reflexes and emotions on a historical belief or experience that was held. And more as we illumine in our natural state, then the natural abilities of intuiting and our beingness and being in the harmonic flow of universe of being, then things just sort of, it's everything's a yes, yeah. You want to do this? Yeah, sure, yeah, 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 yeah. Our yes becomes yes. That's why I feel that another thing that Jesus said 2,000 years ago, let your yes be yes and your no be no, has no energy, no resistance, no charge on it. Just because and a no is not different from a yes. It's just no. Do you want to do this? No. No. And you don't even have to know why. I often say yes and often say no, and I don't really know why I'm doing that.
Yeah. Yes. I want to find the place where he says that. Basically that, okay. And this is in that last section about time. And I think that section is really amazing. I loved reading that again. But let me just read this paragraph because I think it speaks to what you're saying about saying yes or no from the point of view of consciousness. There's no difference essentially between saying yes or no, and that from consciousness point of view, there's simply experience unfolding. So there's no resistance. There's no value put on a yes or a no.
Right. Good one.
So Rupert says, the true and only self is inherently free of any motive, plan, or purpose. It is that for and out of which all motives, plans, and purposes are ultimately made. So the true self is where all the motives, plans, and purposes. Okay, wait, hold on. The true and only self is inherently free of any motive, plan, or purpose. I got that. It is that for and out of which all motives, plans, and purposes are ultimately made. Yes, we are pure peace and happiness, which knows no resistance to the now, nor any desire to replace the now. So that is why there is no difference between a yes and a no, ultimately, because it all is the same, comes from the same place. It's all motives, plans, and purposes are ultimately made in the true self, in consciousness. Therefore, the only one who's got an issue is an imaginary self, which shows up as the thought, I shouldn't have said yes, or, that person doesn't deserve it, so I'm going to say no.
Right.
But without that identification with that imaginary appearance of a thought that poses as a self, the yes and the no are both arising out of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And we only get, tripped up. It's almost like a very weird yoga pose where, you're holding onto your own foot thinking that it's something else. Even though it's coming up the backside of your head and you're like, how could that be? That's still your foot. We keep thinking, well, that's somebody else. That isn't somebody else. It's all just consciousness. And, my experience is that the incredible creativity of consciousness, this total openness to everything, has created these incredible experiences of just mind blown. How could that happen? Like the coincidences, the synchronicities, the miracles, the healing, the letting go of things that you never thought anyone could ever let go of certain things, and then they let go of it. Those are ways in which this is showing off, just like we can do anything. There are no limits here. Every possibility is present. And it's only when I collapse myself into some small idea of something that it appears that I've sectioned myself off from all of the possibilities, and things no longer seem fun.
Yeah.
But we're living in the midst of everything. Everything is here.
Everything. Well, we are at the top of the hour. This has been a great time of sharing with you, Kimberly Cartwright. I've been looking forward to it, and I have loved it. And I know that our guests are also appreciative. Thank you for being a co-host with us again.
Thanks, Bill. So glad to do it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you so much, and I love everyone. And just again, thank you so much for letting me be part of this amazing community of friends. It's extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, next week, you guys, Jenny Beal is back, and the title is The Origin of the Separate Self. I'm looking forward to, really looking forward to hearing Jenny again. And thank you all for your activities on Facebook and being part of this community of beings that totally love Rupert, and we're all connected to this one mind of the self that we are, of awareness. And I watched Ram Dass last night, a documentary on Ram Dass. Ram Dass says, "Be here now. Be here now." That was his first book. Okay, you all, I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining with us. Bye-bye.